Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Ultimate Doctor Who Marathon. This is the show where we look at every classic Doctor Who story, one episode a day, 7 days a week. We have missed several days now. However, we are in fact, finally back, hopefully in the swing of things, starting today on the 16th of August 2020 with the final story of Season 20 of Doctor Who with the King's Demons. Now, begin, I just want to make sure everyone is aware that because of in 2019, in 2019, YouTube was caught data mining the information of underage users, therefore violating the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, aka COPPA. As such, they implemented a new policy meant to scapegoat creators. So, as I will say, this video is not meant for children. It is not aimed at, marketed towards kids. It's not aimed at kids. Doctors and families that children can watch, but this video, as with all the videos on my channel, is made with an adult perspective in mind, therefore viewer discretion is advised. But starting with part 1 of the King's Demons. Okay, this is not a good episode. It is actually a really, really boring, a really kind of boring thing. First things first, the idea, one, it takes a while for the Doctor and company to actually get involved with the plot, and it sets up sort of as a historical, except there's this night called, basically in the time of King John. I think it's later year, made to the year of like 1215, before the Magna Carta was signed. And as such, it's you're dealing with just the idea of where the story is, where it could be. Being pure historical could have been cool. Actually, this is the 20th anniversary. That could have been a cool throwback to the Hartnell era. Except there's this knight called Sir Giles, played, well, okay, he's credited in, okay, yeah, he's credited as being played by James Stoker in the Radio Times, but not in the actual episode, because the big cliffhanger here is that, surprise, it's the Master. And yeah, that's actually not a really good, and that's the cliffhanger, and that's not a really good cliffhanger, because the audience can tell it's the Master. Like, this isn't like the Portreeve, where the story is like, okay, here's the thing, here's a good cliffhanger. No, it's not like Retrieve or even Khalid, which were decent disguises. This is just, he's putting on it's Anthony Ainley putting on a fake accent, which is, the script also just makes it obvious that it is the Master. Also, we don't get what his plan is here, and we're already halfway through the story. He's there causing trouble, and there's this knight who then gets thrown into the cells, because this knight, Sir Geoffrey de Lacy, it's like, yeah, the king's actually in London, not here, and at the court of Ranulph and Isabella, who are stock characters. Again, there's just a lot of stock characterization stuff here. Again, because this isn't a story that's doing something interesting or something new with its material. It's just that sort of thing that the story does. Um, it is there. Um, you know, there is this very very weird different thing that you get the idea of, but you don't necessarily get the conclusion of. It's it's an episode that exists. Um, really, it's not the here's something cool. Here's just something different. I don't entirely like it. I mean, the location footage is nice. I will say the direction is nice by Tony Virgo. He's a. This is the only story he ever directs. And the sword fight that takes up a decent part of this episode's climax is actually pretty enjoyable. I do enjoy the sword fight, um, even if, uh, even if it's not necessarily an episode that does things but great. It's just overall is one of those stories where you kind of have, eh, eh. We're bored. Um, Turlo is paper thin. Tegan complains, and Peter Davison's Fifth Doctor is kind of bland. I mean, he gets vaguely intrigued, but he's not getting a complete like, here's here's my story that I'm telling. Here's some amazing stuff. No, it's just here's some pretty kind of blandy type stuff. Not really doing anything interesting for what the story can be or what it can do. It's just sort of there, um, plopped right in the middle, of 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 just a season, which is actually kind of a shame when you think about it, because there is some cool stuff. You just don't get to see. Um, you don't get to see what um, what the story really is trying to be. It's just a story. Um, so overall, I'm gonna probably have to give part 1 of The King's Demons a 4 out of 10. Okay, it is the 17th of August 2020. I just finished watching part 2 of The King's Demons, the final episode of the story. Okay, the first episode was subpar, but the second episode even goes worse, in a lot of ways. A lot of it being that this isn't one of those. This is an episode that. This isn't an episode that knows what it wants to be. It's a bit too obsessed with just sort of taking time to quickly, get to whatever conclusion you get, which would be fine. But it's 2 episodes. There's this whole stuff with. You know, there is just a lot in this episode that doesn't, that doesn't, really, finish itself right. Like, the Master's plan is to stop the Magna Carta from happening because because I guess why not? It's one of those things where you don't. You don't. It doesn't. It feels like it meant more for the meddling monk than the master. Like, because that'll somehow let him rule the universe. Yeah, it's very. Here's step one. Step two is now. It should actually be like step 20 or something, or step 100, because this isn't. This isn't really one of those. One of those things that you get to see. It's weird. Um, you know, they're uh, they're just things that this story kind of does, but doesn't. Um, Again, is something where you could have you could have the story what it is, but it doesn't really work. Like the master doesn't have um you don't get to see the entire. You really get to see the entire thing. Like, there's also this robot called Chameleon, which, okay, Chameleon's a mess. Like, there is just so much uncanny valley. Um, where you get you get the idea, but not like it's a good idea to have another robot companion, but that just doesn't work, and it doesn't help at all that the entire story builds, it builds up to Chameleon becoming a companion, even though like the operator behind him died before production. Yeah, it's just a lot of things. And it's a lot of medieval traipsing around, and it isn't very competent. Like, the master is really poorly characterized. I don't want to say that's the worst of it, but like, because there's also just the stuff with, with the story being of like, oh, we don't even have an idea. We just, we just have, the story as it kind of stands, and we move on to the Doctor and Company going to the Eye of Orion, which is a lead-in to the next TV story, which is okay. But yeah, this Tegan wants to leave for some reason at the end too, which makes no sense. She also has nothing to do here. Like, Janet Fielding is literally just shoved into the TARDIS like 8 minutes into the episode, and then that's it. She can fly the TARDIS, which is fine, but like, why? Like, why? That's just kind of boring and not fun. It's a lot of it's a lot of it's a lot of different things that you maybe could maybe could be interesting, but you don't really get to see anything all that interesting with what the story is. What what the plot can be. It's just it's just one of those weird stories. Weird stories overall that doesn't know what it wants to be saying, doesn't know what it's doing. No, it's just kind of there. It's just a story that doesn't work. And this is Terrence Dudley's last script for the show, and I think it's not as weak as, say, Four to Doomsday was, his first script for the show, but it still is a pretty weak ending, and an ending that I think would have worked better just if more time was taken and a little more care was done. So overall, I'm going to have to give part 2 of The King's Demons a 2 out of 10. That being said, as this brings us to the end of the story, let's add up the story's episodes and average them out to give The King's Demons a final score of 3 out of 10, making this a rather weak season ender. But of course, thank you everybody for watching this installment of the Ultimate Doctor Who Marathon. Even if it is pretty late, and I hope we're getting back to having this done on a good schedule by this point. Of course, as always, please leave a like, comment, subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the bell icon so you don't miss an upload. And join me next time when we actually start a look at the single Big Finish trilogy in between The King's Demons and the next television story, the 20th anniversary special, with actually a story that's going to actually explore Chameleon with Devil in the Mist.